Welcome, everyone. A special edition webinar with Melissa from WeTonglen. She shared at the AppSats conference, which is it was their first conference, but it was a conference for those who work with betrayed partners, and is bringing a version of that to us today to share. So, Melissa, I want to give you the most time, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Cami. Hi, everybody. So just so everybody knows, at the Access Conference was the first time I really told my story, except for in a community. And so this is the second time, so I'm a little nervous about it. So just being honest.
Feel the support and love. So it's, yeah.
Okay. So I am the founder of WeTonglen. WeTonglen is an online community for women only partners of porn, sex, and love addicts. But I'm not here to talk about the community. I'm going to mention it, but I'm more talk about what I've learned from the community in my 6 years of being a betrayed partner. So I'm going to start with it's been my D-Day was in March, so it was almost 6 years to the day. Um, what happened to me, and I know that probably the men here and the women here, or whoever, the betrayed and the not betrayed, the betrayer, are gonna kind of find in my story things that are in their story. So 6 years ago, I got an email, just an innocuous email, and it said to me, "Hey, can I have your phone number?" It was my work email. "I want to talk to you about something." And like I was like, what's this about? Like I wasn't going to just pass out my phone number. And the person emailed me back and said, "What your husband's doing." So, just walked out to my husband. He was barbecuing, showed him the email, and that was the starting of D-Day. And from that day on, I got a trickle truth of little bits and little bits and little bits and things that every time I asked him a question, he was emphatic that was it. And then I would find more, and he was emphatic that was it. And I was like in a state of that I just didn't even know what to do. And one day, a friend of mine, we were out, and I was telling her what was going on. She said to me, "Do you think it's sex addiction?" I'm like, a what? I had no idea what that was, never even heard of it. And I came home and I'm like to my husband, "Are you a sex addict?" And I think a light bulb went off in his head because he didn't even know about it. And we were going to therapy at the time, couples therapy, which there was a betrayal there because the therapist knew a little bit about what was going on from him, but I never knew. And then as many of you see that this happens is like it finally blew up one night after hearing and more and more and more. I did something that I had never done before. I crawled in the middle of the night onto his side of the bed, took his phone, and started searching. And that was the end of it. It was, as some of the people listening here will be, it was my line in the sand or my get the hell out. I'm not going to swear here. Where I was like, this is it. Either you have two choices. You can go to rehab or you can just leave. And I was lucky that my husband chose rehab. It was very hard. He was gone for 42 days. And even then, I still was not ready. But during those 42 days, and then after when he came back, he didn't come back to the house, I realized I had to work on myself, but I didn't know how. I was going to therapy. I my therapist told me, try Asanon, try COSA, try these different groups. And while I'm no dissing on these groups, they were not good for me. And luckily, I found Dr. Rob's groups. I found these groups that I felt like I belonged and I could talk. And I remember, I think in the beginning, I couldn't turn on my camera. And then I finally turned on my camera. And I started telling my story, and I met other women, and just in like little things they said. I always use this example where someone said, my husband always walks in front of me. And I'm like, oh my God, so does mine. He was never connected. He was always in another world. He was always on his phone. He was always, and a light bulb went out of my head. So hearing these stories from other women helped me piece together my story. While I was in these groups, I was like, oh my God, there's so much information out there. And people would say, go read this book, go look at this, go look at that. And I would be like, oh my God, I can't piece it all together. So one of the women I met said, come together and let's create some kind of website or something with all these resources. And that was the foundation of WeTonglen. A year after D-Day, we started to build this thing. And now it's a group of over 4,000 women. It's crazy, and it's become more than that. But that's basically my story, and I don't have to go any more into it. I want to talk about many of you know that betrayal trauma is different than any other trauma out there. From the ongoing discovery, how your whole world is shattered. I know for me, like I was like, oh my God, I've been married 20 years, and was this whole 20 years a lie? Like, what was it? I didn't know what was real, what wasn't real, what was gaslighting, and that doesn't happen with these other traumas. You get hit by a car, that's a trauma, you get fixed. Your husband's an alcoholic, you see him drinking. Here, it's it's like your whole house has this, what do I say, like a gas in there, and it's killing you, but it's silent and it doesn't smell. So for us, when we learn that what our spouse is doing, we start putting pieces together, but there's always cracks and there's different things. So I just wanted to establish that, like, it's not, you're not crazy. It's a different kind of trauma than everybody else. Um, Not to compare. Um, so what I want to talk about is like, well, how is community different? We go to therapy, we have 50 minutes, and then we maybe go once a week. And then where are we? We're isolated, we're in trauma, we don't know what to do. And the trauma doesn't go away when the 50 minutes are up. So there's like this gap of what to do. In a community, there's 24/7 support. We bond with each other people are validating, we talk to each other, we learn from each other, and it accelerates our healing, it helps to reduce crisis, and there's support all the time. You start meeting people, there's people all over the world, maybe they're in a different time zone, and they'll be up when, or it'll be their daytime when you're in the middle of the night having a crisis. So and there is research to support this. I'm just gonna, I have notes on this, so I have to look at them because I can't remember dates and things like that. There was a study done in 2014. It was on peer versus professional groups, and the research suggested the best outcome from offering both a peer support, that if there's peer support with professional groups, that is the best outcome. So they complement each other. Another one in 2008 on the study of group cohesion found that when there is a strong group cohesion, it's better outcomes. And the interaction and the connection of people within the group shows better outcomes. Another one just on peer support found that it improves PTSD symptoms, coping skills, mental health, and better outcomes than, so peer-led groups were just as successful and effective as clinical led groups. Social support and trauma recovery study that social support is one of the strongest protective factors after trauma. There's higher recovery from PTSD when you have other support, And trauma recovery is stronger influenced by relationships and connection. And that's what you get in groups is you have connection. Another study was on loneliness and isolation. And as I said, with betrayal trauma, you're isolated and you're lonely. And this study said that community and groups really helps that. And so, with all the research out there, the key takeaways is that trauma leads to isolation, isolation worsens, and community and this connection helps in these healing. So, it's not just a thing that people say go to groups. It's really, there's research out there that say it really helps. And I have seen, I mean, I still go, they still help me. And I've seen in this 6 years, the growth of people and women that I've met in this group from the beginning until now. So it's not just me, I've seen it. And I've seen like shifts in people, like you can see the shift. So one of the things that I found that peer support helps is there's a lot of gifts that it is. It validates. It says, "I believe you. It really happened. Your response is normal," because we really need that. It's a reality test. Yes, this really happened. Your feelings make sense because, especially with betrayal trauma, you could go home and your spouse may say, "Ah, that's not real." You go to these groups, we all say, "No, no, 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 no." That makes sense. Um, there's a mutuality, not just receiving help, but you're giving help to others. Um, there's a wisdom, what actually works from the people who lived it. So my wisdom from is different now after 6 years that can help others, even though that I'm still learning as I'm going. Um, and there's a witnessing. If you witness someone who's able to go through it, it gives you the strength to go through it some more, to help you go through it. Um, there's a shame reduction. I mean, I know that for me, it was like, how can I talk to people about this? What does this mean about me? And I was like hiding from it. But if you're there talking to other people and they're not broken, then you say, I'm not broken and I can get through this. Also in community, it gives you the permission to grieve. It can permission to be angry. You can go and you can talk to and be and just be pissed off or cry or whatever you want. Sometimes your friends don't get it. And here you're in a group that people get it. Education, we learn that there's a book out there that could help us. There's a podcast. There's so much that we can learn from other people. And we may not have found it, but they found it and it relates to us. Also, it gives you tools. We learn about boundaries, something that somebody else did with their spouse, or a boundary that we may not have thought of, or how to put that boundary into play that we never thought of. Because sometimes we're in such a fog that when we hear from somebody else, it helps. It also gives us a voice where, like I said, in the beginning, I couldn't turn on my camera, and then I did, and I gave me a voice of who I am. It's interesting. When I first found out, I started doing breath work and the pain and or even actually when sorry, back up. When I talked to my therapist and I'd be so upset, I'd feel it in my throat. And I started reading more about it and there's like, you lost your voice. And I got my voice back from coming to these groups and talking to people. So, and the my favorite is the thing that it gives you hope when you see that other people have gotten through this. I used to say to my therapist, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I'll never get to the end of this. There's light at the end of the tunnel, I can tell you. And there is hope. So now I just want to share, these are quotes from people in WeTonglen about how the community has helped them. It gave me a compassionate community of women who get it. She gets it. With the available resource, I felt empowered to be my conductor of my own recovery orchestra. I haven't felt this empowered in 20 years. bit by bit, utilizing so many tools I found right here, plus the support groups, which helped me to find a community that I didn't have to explain a thing, to where I found my voice again. In these groups, like, everybody gets it. Like, you don't have to say, explain to, like, you explaining to a friend why you stayed. They don't get it. Everyone in these groups get it. Um, I used to think my situation was unique. It's not. It's comforting and validating to hear my story from someone else's mouth. This is where I learned and I deserve better, that his behavior has nothing to do with me. I know that many women come into the groups and believe it has to do with them. It has nothing to do with you. And by hearing other people's stories, this validates that it really doesn't have anything to do with you. Webinars, articles, and book recommendations are all beneficial when navigating betrayal trauma, but it's the women who we connect with through these groups where our hearts are encouraged to eventually heal. Now, I know this is like, I'm doing this to women because WeTonglen is for women, but 12-step groups are where the addict gets this community and they heal together. And then again, my favorite one is going from zero support to being surrounded by a community of truly understanding women changed the trajectory of my healing the first time I felt hope. So, I mean, community really, really brings this all together. So, so one of the things that I've learned through Lee Tong Lin is that there's things that should be part of a community before jumping into, before joining. It must be trauma informed. It must be safe and confident. You have to feel comfortable to go to these communities. Um, and you have to know that what stays there, what you say stays there, because you don't want to go and find out your story is being told by somebody else. It needs to have partner centered language that you don't feel like you're being labeled codependent or anything that, would make you feel uncomfortable. It's, I mean, I feel there needs to be clear structures and boundaries in the community, what you can say, what you can't say, what is appropriate, because I know, especially for women that have been have betrayal trauma from sex addiction, some things that people may be able to say about what your partner did may trigger another person. You want to have clear structure that it won't traumatize the people in the community. It's important that you have a permission to feel. You can cry, you can yell, you can be angry, and no one's going to fault you for it. You don't have a pressure from the community that you should be staying with your partner, that you should forgive them. It's all on your own time. And that every single person's story is unique. Where we have overlaps and we can learn from each other, everybody's story is unique. Okay, so there's many different types of communities that are available. There's peer-led support groups like the online community WeTonglen, led circles, there's in-person partner groups. Then there's clinically or professionally facilitated groups. You could ask your therapist if they have groups. Some of them are paid, some are not. So if you're with a therapist, just say, do you have any groups that I can go to? And then there's other options. There's 12-step based groups. Seeking integrity groups, like I already said, they're really good groups. They're where I still go to. One thing I would like to mention is some groups, like people form WhatsApp groups. I would just be wary of them if there's no structure involved, because some of them there's no structure involved, where you can talk to people there, but there's no structure involved, so it can trigger you and it can delay your healing because there's no structure. Questions that I suggest you ask when you're looking for a community: is this space for partners or is it mixed? Some people don't want to be in a mixed group. I know Seeking Integrity has just women groups and they have some mixed groups. Some people don't want to go to those mixed groups because it's uncomfortable for them. What's the philosophy like? Is there victim blaming? Is there a codependent language? Do they have the principle, this is not your fault? For me, that's really important because it's not my fault. Um, is there a structure? Is there someone facilitating it? Like the seeking integrity groups, there's a therapist there. While she's not there to be a therapist, but she's facilitating the group. What's the confidentiality look like? Are there any costs? It's really, if you can't afford it, it's important that you go to a group that you can afford. Luckily, we have, all these groups from Seeking Integrity that are free, and the 12-step groups are also free. How do you participate? Is there online? Is there chats? Is it in person? Ask, is this format going to work for me right now? Sometimes, online doesn't work, or in person you can't get there, or online when you have people in the background, or your a partner is going to come in and out, it might not be the right community for you. Am I free to stay? Am I free to forgive or not forgive? We talked about that before. Does the space affirm partners as healthy people responding to an incredible stressful situation? We don't want to be called have that it's our trauma that causes, or we caused this because we weren't doing the right thing. It's not our fault. So it's important that you go to a community that understands that. Again, does the community have boundary setting, self-care? We talked about that. So this is my favorite. If the space doesn't feel safe for you and makes you feel worse, it's okay to leave. If it's not the right place for you, then it's not the right place for you. Some places, I mentioned in the beginning, I went to a COSA meeting. It just didn't feel comfortable for me. Just keep trying. And also, one week you go and it's not good for you, try it again, because maybe there was someone talking that turned you off. Maybe it wasn't the right therapist who was in that group. Different therapists run different groups different ways, especially on Seeking Integrity. So it's really important to just try it, because the more you go, the more comfortable you are. And I know, and a lot of people might be against this, but I think it's really important if you go to an online group to learn to turn on your camera, because the connection there of seeing other people is really important. And I know it's really hard in the beginning, and I know it's hard that if you have kids in the background or whatever, but if you can blur your screen, you're not really protecting anybody if you're at work and you have your camera on. You're kind of protecting yourself, because you're going to be shown to everybody. So anyway, I just think it brings a lot of connection. So talking to your therapist about community support, like how to bring it up. Talk to your therapist, say, I'm interested in connecting with others. Do you know anyone? Talk to them about, are you ready? Do you have the ability to self-regulate and pause? And if they say you're not ready, ask them, can you help me to be ready? So all these things, like, I feel safe enough to share? Do I feel safe in going to a location? If you're not, talk to your therapist. To teach you how to do this, because the connection you're going to learn from other people is going to help you move along in your healing faster. Red flags. Therapists discourage you from peer support, insists you don't need it. I would say everybody needs it. If the therapist only recommends a group that they run, it's important. There's lots of groups out there. You don't have to go to their group. An ideal community is one that's complement to your therapy, and integration of community experience into your therapy work. So you can go to your therapy and say, I learned this, or I need to do this. Can you help me? So you integrate all these things together. Community complements therapy. It doesn't replace it. That's really important. I mean, therapy has its place, and community has its other place. I only left this in. I did this at the APSATS conference. I did a meditation, and this forum, I'm not going to do a meditation, but I just wanted, people are like, what is WeTonglen and where did you get the name? So, Tonglen is a Tibetan Buddhist compassion meditation. It's the art of giving and receiving, where you visualize yourself breathing in the suffering of others and breathing out the relief and healing. And you do it as a group, as a healing thing. So, that is where the name came from. And when I did this presentation at the APSAS conference, we did a short meditation together. Just remember, everybody deserves their support and community is available, and you don't have to do this alone. It's really important that you don't do this alone, because betrayal trauma and sex addiction is really, really hard to do alone. And to have support, I can tell you that not only do I have support in the groups, but from the women I met, I have that 24/7 support. We text all the time. We talk all the time. I told them not to text me right now, and they know they're here listening, and I told them not to text me.
Mhm.
So that is it. That's the end of my presentation. I hope I didn't run through it too fast.
No, no, you did, and I've got some comments and questions, and then there's one question, but we would invite more questions. I'm going to start with I'm going to go backwards. So you talked about go more than one time. I tell that to the addict partners too, because you go to any 12-step meeting, I go like go 6 times, because every meeting has a personality. When we moved from the state we were in to the state we are now, I had to go find a new home group, and I went and shopped, and I went to find the group that was a fit. So I love that you were talking about, like, I tried this, that wasn't a fit. I tried this, it wasn't a fit. But also, like, every meeting has a person that will probably get on my nerves. Guess what? That's an opportunity for me to work on me. But still, I don't discount the whole meeting, because of that. So I love that you shared, try it more than once. They might have been having an off day. You might have been having an off day. So check that out. And you said everybody deserves to have, a community. And I think everybody needs to have a community. We heal in relationship. One of my quotes on my email, I who quote Harville Hendricks, but it was like, we get hurt in relationships, but we heal in relationships. And so even if this relationship, this person betrayed me, there are other people who can step in. I like that you talked about your friend, and like, I'm so inspired that your friend was able to go, you think he's a sex addict? Because a lot of friends, just like you were talking about, they're not the safe people. They're going to go, Melissa, you should, dump the jerk, or, like, whether it's pressure to stay or go. Oh, you need to forgive him. You need to be a better wife. You need to, whatever. They're going to give you lots of advice that is out of context, where people who are walking this path are going to be able to go, yeah, been there. I get it. And here's how we, continue to move forward. So, um, you talked about the WhatsApp, and it's true, not just for that, but for any group. Look for the people who are looking to move forward, that don't want to just get stuck. And some people, everybody gets to choose their journey, but we talk about this a lot. Yeah, stick to the winners. We say this in the addiction 12. Find the winners. Find the people who are looking to move forward, not just rehash the things over and over again. Hope. I love that you talked about hope, and there is hope. Whether you stay or go, there is hope. Partners can heal, whether they stay or go. One of the drop-in groups that we have on Seeking Integrity is Moving On Alone, for partners who have been left, or have one foot out the door. Zero pressure to stay in the relationship. You mentioned we have one on Sunday night. Angela Spearman does a mixed gender betrayed partner group. That's the only one. Everything else is either female, or we have a male. So if you're a male partner, guess what? There's a separate group for you, with that as well. Separate female addict group from the male addicts too. So we really do think the gender, consideration is important. And I thought about you mentioned the fog, and I thought, it's why we have to hear things so many times. Oh yeah, I've heard that before. But in that moment, all of a sudden it clicks, or like you're in a different, situation, or you're somebody saying it in just enough of a different way. So, it isn't that, we're broken or malformed or whatever. It's like, we just need to hear it when we're able to receive the message. So, I think the 15-minute, you talked about the therapy session. I was like, yeah, because you can't packed your trunk. I'm going to just pull my trunk out and we're going to talk about it in 50 minutes. And then I'm going to put it all away. And then when I show up in a week, we'll pull it back out, So yes, having that 24/7. And I love the different time zones and even if they're in the same time zone, these are the people that'll pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning for you. And you would for them. Like that's what that's all about. So I really, I'm so grateful that you're willing to share. I know it's a different experience, but you're also sharing the hope of like, I've come through the really awful stuff, and I'm on this journey and we've talked before and you've talked about like I'm stronger than I ever knew, like you're sharing the messages of empowerment, and shifts. Those are, those do happen. I see people, healing for themselves regardless of what their betraying partner, did or didn't do. So, oh, we got a
I
bunch of
also,
the, go ahead,
okay,
please.
I also think it's important that, yes, I'm still with my husband, but I still think that the process of healing is the same if you stay, if you go. There's different complications, like we all have our
Right.
own story, but we still need to heal the same way and we still need to get through it and we still need the community to talk to. And it's really important and there's still hope on both ends.
I agree. And that's, yeah, it was stay or go, choose healing for you. And you're right. Dr. Rob, codependence, we are all about nothing you did or didn't do cause this. Nothing you do or don't do is going to make him, you get all better. So if you click on Q&A, you'll be able to follow along. The first one is the betrayer. How do I deal with the money spent on recovery when it seems like such a trigger for my wife?
Well, I can
Please,
answer that
please.
in the way I think of it is that, well, first of all, the money you spent on the addiction is it's more important to spend the money on your therapy. And uh, it seems like financial betrayal is a big trigger for me. It still is a trigger for me. I'm still getting through it. But I think it's really important to understand the value of the money. Like you're investing in your health. That's the way I look at it. You wouldn't not go to the doctor if you had cancer and spent the money on the cancer treatment. I would say spend the money on the recovery and have this conversation, an open conversation with your wife about that. I would want my husband to have an open conversation about how important it is that I want to heal for you. Don't, and that I need this therapy. I mean, that's the way I think of it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And yes, uh, to me, what is the goal? If the goal is to heal to heal and to be moving towards each other, then investing in a solid foundation early on. It won't say that, you don't have to go to therapy for 30 years, but front loading it and getting the help that you need. We have a residential treatment program. We have guys that come to that because they want to get a solid foundation, that will start. It doesn't magically fix them, but it gives them a solid foundation and a tool and support to be able to move, forward. And we hear from partners. I'm so glad that we did this. That was the best thing we could have done to get that foundation going. Again, Melissa sharing is still, it's still an issue. But part of it is, and it may be part of your, if you spent money on your addiction, maybe it's part of your restitution, that I'm going to work to make that up, that part of it. But right now I'm with Melissa. This is an investment in your mental health, emotional health, relational health, all of those things, and so in fact, a few years ago, I love math, but a few years ago, I figured out what I spent on my treatment and everything and in my addiction for my addiction. And it's old, so it's a guesstimate, but I took it by every day, at that point, and I was like, wow, best investment ever was my recovery. And guess what? Every day I remain on this path, it's a better investment. So part of it, I mean, it's a math, equation on some level too. So, and then the next one, this is a wonderful, bravo, Melissa, well done. What are your biggest challenges at this point on your journey?
Well, like I said, I'm still have issues with financial betrayal. It still triggers me whenever my husband and I have a talk about money or things like that. So that's a challenge. Um, I won't go into too much detail about it, but sexual integration is a challenge. It's getting better. It's very, it's hard because um, it's a whole new learning of talking and things like that that we never did for now. It will be 25 years when we married. So, um, uh, in the beginning, challenges were with the kids, and that has gotten way better and, things. So, but I'd say the financial betrayal is my biggest challenge still.
And you kind of are answering, there's a question a couple down. Would you consider sharing if your relationship survived? And clearly it did, because it seems most on the community are moving on alone. And that, I mean, do you feel like that's the case? Because that is not my experience. But is that your experience that you feel like more are moving on alone?
No, I don't find that either. I find
Okay.
I don't even know the percentages. I thought it was the other way around. More people were
Yeah.
saying, um,
But that's the statistics we overall have are much more weighted towards, especially if the work is being done by both, that relationships tend to be able to move forward.
I also think that the longer you're in a relationship, there's the tendency to stay in the relationship. You have such an established, like I had 20 years, and I wasn't ready to blow up that 20 years. Even though there were things that didn't piece together, I still had those 20 years of happiness with my children. I wouldn't have had my children. So I wasn't ready to blow that up.
And that there are statistics on that. A relationship that is longer term is more likely. You have that combined history. There are more really, and even if the relationship end, you would still co-parent. You will eventually co-grandparent. So there would be there's often a desire to navigate it more than a relationship that's a couple of years old that has less ties. So
And if someone who is only a couple years or not even married yet, I think that I would tell them something different than I would talk to someone, because it's hard. It's hard work to keep it
mhm.
together, and it's a lot of work. So,
Well, and I do the same thing. I say, let's use he and she. I say he will always be an addict, whether he's an addict in active recovery or active addiction. That's up to him, but he will always be an addict. And so for those of us in recovery, if we want to continue to be on that journey, we continue to do the things we need to do to remain on that journey. And if we don't, we're going to backslide. So yeah, there's always a level of uncertainty, for partners, especially newer in the relationship. Can you elaborate more on how women are screened for WeTonglen so it is
sure,
safe?
sure. Um, so every single person that comes on has to fill out a questionnaire. And currently, I personally read every single questionnaire. In the beginning, I didn't start this alone. There's another woman who I met in the Seek Integrity groups. We started together. She's now had two children. She's doing it.
Mm.
And when she does come out in a bind. But so now I personally read them. And if there's something that I have to ask, if they don't answer a question correctly, or there's just something, I will personally email those people and say, I need more information just to make it safe for everybody.
And and I know we do talk, and there can be
Mhm.
situations, and we talk and we work really hard to navigate to make sure that we're holding safe space on both platforms, for the partners that are there.
And also, if there is an issue that evolves, I will reach out to Tammy for help, or I will reach out to Angela Spearman for help, or Susan Anderson for help on how to navigate them, so I can get a therapist perspective of how to navigate it, because I am not a therapist. I do have a lot of knowledge in this field,
Yeah.
but I am not a therapist.
Well, and I do this. I'll have the same situation where I'll reach out and go, is this something occurring on your platform? And we'll confer and we'll see if there's patterns. We're looking to make sure that we're creating a safe environment. we understand that people are reactive and understandably, traumatized, et cetera. So we're looking at, can we offer the community, will the community best fit, this particular person? So. And then I did put in the chat the website link. So if you click on the chat, you will be able to go there and you can fill out a form. So I would encourage you to do so. I'm not finding a community of women who are in the place that their partner is in good recovery, and I'm looking for a couples community. I do RCA, and I tried the Prodependence couples meeting on Saturday. Any suggestions?
I do actually have a suggestion.
Oh, good. Thank you. Tell me. Tell me
So
more.
from WeTonglen, a group of women have started a couples group.
Oh, great.
And I don't have the information right here. And they do screen some people because they want couples that are in recovery because, or I think it's 6 months on or something. I don't know the
Okay.
details. And they meet on Saturdays. Um, Maybe if that person is here, they can put it in. No, they can't put it in the
The,
chat. Maybe they can put it
the,
in the Q&A. I don't know if
put it in
she's
the Q&A.
and she's
Otherwise,
here. Um,
otherwise email either Melissa or me. I have probably more time than Melissa. Email me because Melissa will get me the person's
and
information.
it's
Maybe.
usually announced in Tuesday's Old Lady Posse. I
Well, there
know.
you go. There you go. There's another place to find it. So, and I did not know about that. So that's another great resource you need to know about. I've never seen your community mentioned on social media. Do you have a presence there?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
I believe that the group is just like a 12-step group. It's attraction, not promotion. Um, we have this rule. Once you become a member, you do not share on Reddit, you do not share on Facebook, you do not share on any social media platforms. People still do. I do see people come in who said, "Oh, I read it on Reddit." It's just, it's more important that you meet someone and they tell you what it's about and you understand what it's about than just going on Reddit and saying, "Oh, yeah, here's this community." Because sometimes people come and say, "Oh, my boyfriend cheated on me. Can I join?" And I'm like, "No, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being so direct here." But no, it's a whole different thing. This is a group of women, and it has to be safe, that have these whole other issues from sex, porn, and love addiction.
And I do share the community with people, but it's in a very specific way. People that are coming to seeking integrity, they're coming for a reason. So I have often shared, to check out the community. So
And
um,
therapists do share.
yes,
Therapists
yeah,
share with
absolutely. But
yeah.
yeah, it's not on TikTok. So
No.
does your community ever have a in-person events in addition to online, like a retreat for betrayed partners?
So we have the only thing we had, I tried to have was at the AppSats conference to get people to come and then we meet. There was a few women who I did meet. Um, I would love to have a retreat. I'm a one woman show, so it's hard.
And you have women all over the world,
And
so
yeah, and I find that even with the AppSats, there's cost restrictions and thing, and
time
I'm a little
constraints.
time
Yeah.
constrained, and I'm a little wary to start to research it, get it going, and then be stuck having to spend the money because paying for a place that no one
Oh,
shows up.
yeah. Well, here's what I have heard, and you, I'm sure, have as well, that there are like little subgroups of people, like, like if I'm happen to be in Phoenix, so if there was a number of us in Phoenix who wanted to get together, I have heard of some groups that have, in a locale, they're getting together once a month or something like that. So there are opportunities to connect probably on a more local basis than a, big 4,000 person event, and
I don't know of any, so email Tammy.
yeah. Oh, and there are lots of intensives and retreats, and betrayed partner support. There's, we offer the Empowered Women's Retreat that will happen again in August. So there are things. It's just separate from an event hosted by We Tonglen.
We online, I do webinars once a month or sometimes twice a month that you can ask questions, but it's not, um, you're not seeing the people. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
And
different.
it's
Yeah.
not in person. So yeah. Thank you so much, Melissa. You are an inspiration. I'm so grateful for all you do for our community. I go to most of the meetings, though, through Seeking Integrity and WeTonglen, and I find it so helpful to my recovery. My husband is not in recovery. He says, I'm addicted to the meetings. Is there something in what is saying?
No.
Yeah,
Um,
manipulation.
it,
Oh, you should
you're
stop that.
um, you're addicted to talking to people and healing. No, I don't think so. I mean,
Yeah.
it's part of your healing. It's a you exercise every day. You exercise too much. Like the same thing. If it's good for you, it's good.
Yeah, and you said, I'm so grateful for all you do for the community. I find it so helpful for my recovery. He's not in recovery, and he wants to cause negative feelings about that, like, oh, you're addicted to them. So that to me would be, gaslighting. So yes, keep doing your healing work. Lean into your healing work. I will say there's a healthy boundaries work group starting this month. Debbie McCrae is great at helping navigate that. And she's really good at the 4-part talking boundary too. The story I'm telling myself, I love her work. So that could be useful for you, so that you are not listening to those negative messages that your active addict is saying. Melissa, how do you invest in a relationship? As meant to, how to do you invest in a relationship with someone who has an incurable disease and can relapse? I assume that means addiction.
Um, in one of the groups with Angela, she once said, and it's stuck in my brain, it's a calculated risk. And you have to calculate that risk daily on can you live with this? And that's what I do. I see the way my husband talks. I see the work he's doing. I mean, he's 60 years down the line and he still does group almost every day. He's a sponsor. He has, I think, 3 sponsees. I'm not sure. I don't keep track anymore. At this point, in the beginning, I had, trackers, I look, whatever, all these things. At this point, he knows my boundaries, he knows what happens, and I have calculated the risk and I take it day to day. And I have to take it day to day. I mean, like, kind of, you have to take life day by day now. Like, then you miss it. If you're looking to the future, you're looking at the past. To me, you're missing what's in front of you. And right now, today, he's sober. And I, I do not wish this on anybody, but I can tell you my relationship is better today than it ever was. We're open, we're honest. I can say anything. He understands. Um, is it perfect? No. Do things come up? Do things happen? Of course. With this addiction, without it, um, things come up. But I think you wouldn't give up on someone who has a terminal illness it lasts 10 more years. So, yes, they can go into remission, or yes, they can die tomorrow. I don't know. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I think Angela's, words are wise, and life is a calculated risk, I, if I get in a car, I could have a bad car accident. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't live in fear of every moment, pondering, well, that could happen, that whole, future tripping of like what bad things could happen. I love what you talked about. I see what he's doing. I don't have to have the trackers and pay attention to all. I don't even know how many sponsees he's got. Like, you see that he is active in his recovery. He's doing the actions that will help, continue to help him grow. You are taking care of you. That's how this works best, is if we are doing the work of healing, and that we can narrow the gap between us. But yeah, I mean, I don't know a marriage even without addiction that is like perfect. I would be highly
If it's
skeptical.
perfect,
Yeah.
yeah. What I also learned through this is Don't look on social media because that's
Yeah.
not real.
Yes,
You never
exactly.
know what goes on behind
Yeah.
closed doors and
Yeah.
you can't judge, especially after learning it. Like people would say, "Oh, Melissa's, marriage is great, whatever." You never know what goes behind closed doors and you
Yeah.
just, can't judge.
Well, and you talked about, it's a calculated risk, but and there's also the risk benefit. Like you have a family, you have children, you've created a life, so like you talked about, I didn't want to throw everything away. And even if you leave, there still is it doesn't just take care of the problem. There's still all of the grief. There's still healing work to do, even if you choose to leave. So it isn't like the easy solution. It comes with a whole bunch of stuff on its own. So, okay, next question. Can you speak to the addicts who think that our groups are just a bunch of women complaining about their husbands? Oh, thank you for asking that question. So,
They are not. Um, there can be groups that are like that, and I don't think they're healing, but they're not. They're a group of women who are in pain and are learning from other people how to navigate this addiction and get through it. Now, maybe they come back and they learned something there and they confront the addict and the addict doesn't like it, but we're not there complaining about with our husbands. They're learning from each other and trying to heal and navigate this as best as we can.
and our group guidelines for our drop-in groups are like not bashing. So if somebody was on constantly, a name calling or just being completely negative about their spouse. I mean, if it's about like this person just did this and the behavior, like, and I'm so hurt, that's different than he's name. I'm not going to even use them, but so that would not be what would be healthy and healing. We mentioned earlier that you look for groups that are where people are looking to learn tools to use to heal for themselves and move forward, not get stuck. I'll go on to the next question. I got more on that one, but I'll go on to the next question. Can you tell us about the presentation on calculated risk?
There wasn't a presentation on it. She was just talking and she said the words calculated risk, and I wrote it down. And I'm like, it hit a light bulb in my head that said, oh my God, that is the exact words that this is. It's a calculated risk. If you stay or if you go, you have to calculate, what they're doing, what you're doing. I mean, it's a fine balance. And based on it, I did write an article on WeTonglen about it. And Angela and I are actually working on something bigger based on that term calculated risk. So stay tuned for that. And if you're on, I don't, this is an anonymous person who posted this. If you're a female and you're on WeTonglen, go in the search bar and look for calculated risk. It's in there.
And you'll find Angela. She is on the drop-in group on Sunday nights. That this Sunday she is off, but she'll be back the next Sunday. So you can go ask her, directly as well. So she is also going to be doing a special edition webinar like this one on April 15th. So she'll be live with me on the webinar then. What therapy structure worked for you?
Um, so for me, we ended up right when my husband was in inpatient. Um, I found a therapy group. I'm in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area who works with both the addict and the betrayed. And we both got therapists in that group. And what worked group the best for us is that we each did therapy alone each week. And then we came together with conjoin. We have never done couples. Um, the only sort of couples we've done is if one of our therapists is gone, we're comfortable enough to just have one of them facilitate it. But what works the best for us is when we each had someone advocating for us in the group. They were not advocating for the coupleship, they were advocating for us, and they help us communicate with each other. So,
I'm a huge fan of conjoint, and I'm working on having someone do a webinar on that because it's not as well known. But the challenge, if you have a couples therapist and you each have your individual therapists, is how much are they really talking, and they're giving a couple minute, update. In conjoint therapy, where both of your therapists and both of you are there, they're seeing things in real time. And you're right, they are there supporting and advocating for you in that. So I'm working on that. I hope to have that one in April. So stay tuned on the conjoint. Okay. Related to another question, my husband says that said these pro dependence groups are women bashing their husbands, and 12-step local groups are so much better. I disagree, but he continues to disagree. What advice would you agree? Or what advice would you give me? I don't agree with him at all. So, like, I'm wondering what is his motivation for you? Because most local groups, and everybody gets to pick, but most of them have codependent language. And guess what? That pathologizes partners. You're an enabler. You're codependent. You're part of the problem. And there are therapists that still use that language. We work really hard at, not referring to them. But I'm curious, what's it matter? Like, his recovery work is his recovery work, your healing work is your healing work. He I hope he doesn't change your mind, but I'm also going, why is I'd be curious. Ask him, why do you care? And clearly he doesn't understand what codependence is. So yeah.
Also, where's he getting this information from?
Exactly.
He doesn't go to the groups. The other addicts
Correct.
must be telling him and says, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, my wife comes into that group and comes back angry." No, she comes back informed.
Yeah. 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 This feels manipulative, and like there's a end game. Like I have a motivation for getting you to stop doing the healing work that will help you be empowered and heal for yourself. What do you think about trauma therapy or
I think it
therapy?
says
Oh no,
therapy
wait.
trauma.
I'm sorry. I read it backwards.
I read it
What do you
backwards
think
too.
about therapy trauma? It's real. That codependent language is horrible. Like I work really hard at referring to therapists. I have a long list of people I don't refer to because they have done and said things, and it's verifiable. I don't just take one person's word. I investigate. But yeah, therapy trauma, where someone, I just heard about another one yesterday. They were completely abandoned in the disclosure process. So yes, spiritual trauma, therapy trauma, all of that, is institutional trauma. We've done webinars on that. It's
I
thoughts.
also I got we were in a couples doing couples before I found out. And as soon as I found out, I discovered that the couples therapist knew about some of his cheating. My husband told him because they do, you talk to
Mhm.
them separately before, and he knew and never had my husband come out and tell me. And so that was another form of betrayal and trauma.
So real quick, we have a minute. What is your advice for women who stay with active addicts?
It's hard. It's hard, but yeah, I mean, Tammy could probably talk to this better than I can, but you have to, like we said about calculated risk, you have to calculate the risk of staying with an active addict. And can you live that life and can you navigate your life like that? And are you safe in that relationship? And if you feel that you can be, then I don't know. I mean, it's hard.
It's harder. Healthy boundaries. It is more imperative to have healthy boundaries and hold, and the system will fight you. And so having the support to be able to hold those is key. You can do it. There's lots of people who do, and there's financial or caregiving, whatever. There's lots of reasons, and that's all everybody's decision. But yeah, making sure that you're not consumed by the addiction
And
is more challenging.
there's a lot of women in the groups that do. So you can talk to them how they navigate it. Um, a lot.
We're out of time. Thank you so much. I will send you the link to the recording as soon as I have it, and come back again.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
we can do a Q&A or something. So,
Okay.
all right. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone. Bye
Sammy.
bye.